This is what I've taught to over 1,000 of my private mentorship clients. Each of those has paid me to either help them start or to scale their own social media marketing business. And some of them have used what I've taught them to make literal millions. This is a set of mindset shifts, principles, and strategies that I revealed at an in-person event I hosted in 2024 in Dublin, Ireland. And this was just with a group of people that I've worked with, clients of mine already. Now today, I'm giving you a snippet of that recording because I want you to know exactly what has helped those people at this point. Some of them make millions.
So the first thing we're going to do is me and Ty are going to bring it down a notch, right? Because we've just gone through a lot of very high level content, systems, scaling, SOPs, the whole 9 yards. James, Jordan, great job. But we've got a lot of beginners, right? And maybe some of you are feeling a little overwhelmed right now. Anybody? Raise your hand if you're anyway overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Anybody else? Yeah? Sweet. Good. Means you're growing. What we want to do here is kind of break down, as you can see on the slide, lessons from coaching. Well over 1,000, well over 1,000 at this stage. We've coached beginners. We've coached existing entrepreneurs with businesses trying to scale. And we have a good idea on what works, what doesn't work, but also really what differentiates the person that gets results and doesn't get results, right? Because you all have probably our main program. Some of you are in the 7FA program as well, the higher level. Everybody essentially has the same info. Yet if you look around, we all have different results, right? That is down to our actions, our mindset, and a bunch of other stuff. So our goal here is to kind of break down what we see to be the key things that differentiate the people that have the info you have that are making the money you want to make, versus if you're in the situation now where you have the same info and you're not making the money you want to make, the difference between the two. We're going to try and bridge that gap a bit. But the first thing we want to touch on is time. Some of you have probably seen I've used a tagline on social media many, many times. My agency went from 0 to 10K a month in 45 days. That's pretty fast, not really normal. But some people wouldn't know that I had 3 years in the game of business before that point. So I did e-commerce, I did drop shipping, I did building Twitter pages and a bunch of stuff. So if you only know that Adam went from 0 to 10K a month in 45 days, and you've been here, let's say 90 days, 180 days, at 0, you might be thinking I'm a failure. Like, this isn't for me. Adam was gifted and a genius from day one. No, he wasn't. He just had 3 years of failures. So Jordan, James did a great job of highlighting that as well. They've been fucked over, kind of scammed in many ways. I've been scammed too. They've had businesses that kind of worked, didn't work, and it's all led them to where they are now today. So that's the first thing we want to touch on. Ty, do you have any notes you want to add on that? Or
I think that'd be great.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just think that context is so important, because if you watch anything in the entrepreneur business space, if you have a YouTube, anything, you see people go from 0 to 10K in like 20 days, 30 days, and that's not a realistic expectation. This is a hard thing to do. For me, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done. So I don't want to sell that this will be easy. It won't. It will require so much more from you than you're probably expecting, which is not the most enthusiastic note of the night. But you guys need to know that this will take time, and it's okay if this takes time. I want you to have a realistic expectation for that, because this is also going to be so much more worth it than you can even imagine. The character that you're going to have to build is going to be so much worth it. So just worth knowing that it took Adam 3 years to go from 0 to 10K in 45 days. Same thing for me. I've been running some sort of online business since 2016. Nothing is special about Adam. Nothing is special about me. I love the dude. Works so hard. He's a brilliant man. I'll say the same about James and Jordan. Great guys. Not special. They've just been doing this for a long time. That's really important context.
Alrighty, cool. Let's go. Sweet. So a few bullet points, guys. My first point is I want you to pivot, but not too often. Has anybody been in a situation where you've thought my outreach, my niche or something isn't work, so I'm going to do something different? I have. Anybody else? You've pivoted. You've made a change. There's times when that change makes sense. You need to pivot, right? Like if we don't pivot, then we're just going to stay the same forever. Like my agency, for example, we pivoted our offer. We pivoted our outreach many times. Our niche was pretty static, but we did have to pivot. If we didn't pivot, we probably wouldn't have got to 7 figures, right? Because there was key changes we needed to make. My point here I want to bring up is in the program, we've seen people get to 10K a month with one offer, right? Let's say social media management, one outreach method, maybe Instagram or Upwork, but then switch to a completely different offer and outreach method, but sometimes they actually had to do that. Alvi, you're a really good example of this. which you can maybe touch on later, right? Which is what I saw Avi do is he had Upwork as his main way of getting clients for quite a while, let's say a year or something. That got you in and around 10K a month, thereabouts. Now you're in a little more than that revenue wise, but essentially your system of getting clients is different, right? You pivoted from Upwork to Instagram outreach, but it wasn't just Upwork doesn't work, so I'm going to pivot. No, because he knew Upwork did work. The key there was he pivoted because he wanted to have a niche and he wanted to have a more productized service delivery. So that's why he needed to pivot. Could he have a niche with Upwork? Kind of tough. Could he have one product, social media management, content creation, that really was the exact same for every client on Upwork? A little bit more difficult. It's more custom, bespoke packages, right? So there's times when pivoting makes sense, but I also want to just highlight for if you're beginning, don't get stuck in the crutch of pivoting all the time. Because if you just keep changing, naturally you're just going to go around in circles. Now, what James and Jordan touched on was tracking, right? So tracking and then changing, that's very different. Like you track your outreach and you see, okay, there's a gap here, I need to change something. Great, change it. That's what you're meant to do. But not do Instagram for 2 weeks and then go, Instagram isn't working, so we'll do Upwork and now LinkedIn and now Facebook and then back to Instagram again. Because that's just going round and roundabout. You're probably not going to get too far. That's my first point. Second thing is I want you to run your numbers instead of running away from them. Okay. So Ty had a student on a call probably 2 weeks back, I think. We did a P&L, which is a profit and loss statement, aka look at your bank account, money in, money out, how much do you actually make, right? Not revenue or any of that. This guy was paying money to run his agency. He was losing money. He had more outgoings than inflow. He thought he was doing very well. When he did the P&L, he realized I'm actually losing money. Now, most of you are probably not going to get to that position, right? That's pretty rare. But at the same time, there was another student we had on a coaching call, Wesley, you might remember last week. Same thing. He thought he was doing maybe, let's say 2K a month, but actually in terms of how much actually came into his bank account, not the deals he thought he closed, it's like maybe 1,000 a month. So my point with this, and this is something I did from day one, is always run your numbers. So do a profit and loss statement end of every month. Numbers don't lie. Sometimes numbers are not what you want them to be, and that's a little bit annoying, depressing, humbling. I've had many months where my revenue goes down, my profit goes down, I'm not making the money I used to make. That's soul crushing in a sense for a business person. But if you don't, you're in this fairyland of just pretending everything's fine when it's not. Okay. So run your numbers. Even if you have one client right now, still do this. You know, if your client pays you $700 a month, but they pay you through Upwork or Stripe, you don't make $700 a month. There's going to be a fee that they're going to take, right? So track what actually comes in for you. And then the last point on this, actually, very important. Don't look at contracted revenue or like, you know, you've had 2 calls in the last 3 weeks that you think will become clients. They're not clients, right? Until the money's in the bank, it's not a client. Okay. It's good to celebrate, of course, when you get a verbal yes or whatever, but that's our saying. Cash in the bank, then we celebrate. Cool. All right. Number 3 is I want you to know what you're building for, or else what you're going to do is you're going to build something you don't even like. Okay. So right now you might be thinking if you're at 0, okay, I'd love a 10K a month agency. Maybe I'd like an email marketing agency like Jordan or some growth partnering like James is doing. Make sure you actually really want that before you go and just copy somebody else. Same with me. Don't just copy what I did. Figure out what you actually want yourself. You know, we have students that do 10K a month that have like 90% profit margins. We have people with 20% profit margins. They have different goals though, okay? So my point here is I optimized my agency for 2 things. So when I started it and really when it was growing, I wanted 2 things from the business. I wanted high profit and high cash flow. Okay, now I also wanted to have a remote team. I didn't want an office, full-time employees, anything like that. And I wanted to have systems that could run without me. So when I would hear, let's say a guy on YouTube or a podcast and he had a 300K a month agency, big corporate office, this and that, I can still take lessons from him, but I also have to give myself a heavy grain of salt and say, yeah, but I'm not going to optimize everything for what he has, right? Because that's not actually what I want. I want high profit and I want high cash flow every single month. Just really important. I feel like I'm going to say the same point over and over again on this, but I've done it before where I've hired team members, I've built systems that I didn't actually really want long term. Like once I had them built, I was like, this is pretty shit. I don't want this. This is actually not what I wanted. But because we're going to glorify the guy we see online or the girl that's doing better than us, naturally you're going to try and do what they do to get what they have, right? So just keep that in mind. An example here is you could have 70% profit margins. It's not the highest you could get, it's not the lowest you could get, but it's scalable to a point. That was for me kind of the sweet spot for my business, right? Because I looked at, again, the two things: high profit at high cash flow. Then the last point being a remote team and systems that could run without me. I can't have an agency doing 100% profit margin if I have a team, because I got to pay a team. At the same time, I don't want a 20-30% margin agency with way more team members and I'm way more detached if the profit isn't good enough. Curious though, anybody here likes the idea of a big corporate business with loads of employees, office, maybe lower profit margins? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Dylan, that's cool. That's cool. Personally, for me, that sounds horrible. Like, I really don't like that idea. But again, this is the whole point. That's what you want. So that's what you optimize for. That's my point. It's not that it's bad or you shouldn't do it. It's me personally. I think it's terrible. I fucking hate it. James just got an office last week, right? Yeah. There you go. Exactly. If you threw me into his office and be like, all right, I'm replacing James, I would hate it. Absolutely. I'd be running out the door, man. Beautiful office, though. All right, I'm going to give this one to Ty, okay? Quick little one for me. We have a thing in the program. Some of you have probably done this, seen this, and already it's part of your day-to-day. A manifesto. So essentially, it's a document you build out to essentially know your why. Why do you do this stuff? What do you actually truly want? And yeah, look, everybody has 1 to 2 hours a day to build something. I could find 1 to 2 hours a day to build another business, right? I definitely have that time that I could find. The thing is, I don't want to and I don't need to. So in my manifesto, that's not part of my manifesto, right? But if you're in a situation where it's, let's say, job is your main thing right now, like you need to build a very strong why, and a key reason for you to do this if you are going to sacrifice an hour or two of your day after working 9 to 5, because let's be real, you're going to be tired, a little bit exhausted, and you won't always want to do it. Okay. So I'm going to give it to Ty, because Ty has probably coached hundreds through this process, but yeah, it's just very important.
Yeah, this is so important because I work with people who come in and we ask them, what is your goal? And the goal is always 10K per month. And then you ask the follow-up, why 10? And they go, it's just a number I picked. And it's not really a number they've picked. It's a number that has been assigned to them. It's what they've seen online. It's what they think is what they need. They've never actually sat down and thought about, what do they want? Why 10? Why not 5? Why not 100? They don't actually make a conscious decision to choose their own goals. And then when it comes time to do the hard work, when it comes time to face the challenges of business, the hard part that I was talking about, when it comes time for them to face that, they don't know why they're doing it. Not really. They know, like, vaguely that they want to make more money. They don't know why. They don't know that that money is what is going to retire their family or provide for their children. It's a lot more visceral. It's a lot more emotional to be able to tie that why, not to a number, but to an outcome. I think a lot of people don't ever think about the outcome of their business. They know they want to make more money, but they've never sat down to think about why. And then when you're waking up and you're tired, when you're discouraged, it's really easy to not think about the economics of, my family needs this. I need this. It's so easy to ignore that because it's not even clear enough for you to crystallize and say, this is what I'm working for. So if you haven't done this activity, I would really encourage each and every one of you to do it. Send it over to us, share it with us, and review your goals daily. Don't just think of it one time. You need to really fixate on this. Be intentional with your time, with your treasure, everything you need to have with intention. I think that's the main takeaway from this. Take the time to write it out and review it.
Love it. Love it. Last point on that is, realistically, if you are going to build a business that makes you rich and lots of money, you're going to do what most people won't do. So you need a strong why. Like, you can't expect to have what the 10% or 1% of people have if we're going to do exactly what everybody else does, So you essentially have to live a different life. And obviously the why is the starting point of that. And again, two lenses I want you to look at this through. Go back to my previous point of, like, know what you actually want. Not what I want, not what Ty built, not what James, Jordan, not what you, like what you want. And then actually go back and look at it, like, daily. Could be 2 minutes, put it as your phone, screensaver, something. Just actually check in on it, because there's days where we all don't want to do stuff, but we still have to get it done, Cool. All right, number 5 here is go internal. Nothing outside of your inputs that you do should really dictate your results or lack of results. Okay, there's 2 parts to this. Number 1 is, has anybody heard the term internal locus of control? Yeah, Harry? Read that in a book? Some article? Some good article. Yeah. I actually learned this in college, the one thing I learned in college. So go study for 3 years and you'll learn this lesson. So essentially, really basic breakdown, internal locus of control. There's internal and external. So external is, let's say I arrived here late and I just blamed the traffic. It's external, right? It wasn't my fault. It was the traffic. This guy was slow in front of me. Couldn't find parking, like that. There's an element of truth in that. It's not like I'm lying, right? But internal is, I should have predicted that there was going to be delays, so I should have left earlier. I'm taking responsibility, taking control. This for me was, again, the one thing that I actually value college for, because it really taught me this lesson. We had a really good psychology lecture on this. If you go through your life in the external locus of control, you'll really always just blame others, well, other people, but also other things outside of your control, which if you really sit down and think about that, it's not really powerful, is it? Like, it's easy to do. We've probably all done it. Like, I still do it to this day. There's times where I'll externalize and I'll blame something for lack of results in my life. It's like, what, my prospect wasn't prepared enough for the sales call? Maybe I could have warmed them up more, right? Or my outreach account got banned. Well, maybe I didn't follow the rules correctly, right? Like, that's internal. It's a very simple thing, but it's almost stoic. If anybody is into stoicism or heard of that concept before, it's just understanding like the process is tough. There's going to be hiccups. And really the only way that you're going to truly get growth with it is always to go internal. What can you change? And so the second point on this is, I'm going to give you a little story. So last year in the coaching we do, I had 3 sales reps. I had a big team of appointment setters, 3 to 4. So that was a sales team. And then I had content creators. I had a YouTube video editor, about 2 or 3 short form video editors, and then a graphic designer as well. And then Ty was on the team as well, right? Ty has been on the team for like 3 years. Now we have Ty, 2 setters, and that's it. No sales team, no video guys, no graphic designers, nothing. Which you would think, maybe results will be worse. The thing is, we actually make a lot more money now. Student results are better, and our audience is growing a lot faster on Instagram and on YouTube. For the people that join our program, they're also just more serious, like more bought in. They've watched more of my content, which really helps. And I essentially fired my sales team one by one and started doing all the sales calls myself. So I went back to the basics, got rid of editors, started creating all the content by myself. You see, I thought I needed what others needed to get to 7 figures a year with a coaching consulting business. But I had a conversation in Dubai with a sales coach that was doing like 80,000 a month. So let's just call that 7 figures per year. If you make 83 grand a month, you're doing roughly 7 figures. And he had no team, literally just him and a virtual assistant. Sounds a bit mad, doesn't it? Literally one dude posting a few YouTube videos, had like 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, maybe 2 or 3 on Instagram, 80,000 a month. Makes you think, doesn't it? I had a conversation with him and I was like, yeah, man, I need to humble myself. I need to go back to sales because my sales team wasn't working that well. We had some performance issues. We had people come into the program with maybe not the best mindset from the sales call they had, because the person that sold them in wasn't actually connected to the coaching. So they might overpromise, overhype, but that's not really good. And so I had to go and roll my sleeves up and say, hey, I'm not too good for sales. Let me get back in and stuck back in. And this is where we're at. We've got more revenue, a bigger business, and quite frankly, I think a better business. Now, my point with all of this is just come back to this point. I had to go back to this internal locus of control. I had to stop blaming the sales team. That was number 1, right? Because it was obviously how I was leading them wasn't actually getting them to enroll the right people with the right expectation and at the right close rate. So that was a me thing. And of course I could have spent way more time sales training and this and that, but they said, look, let me just get back involved. It is what it is. And so there's going to be times where you will go back to the basics in your business, and that's fine. So if you have to fire some team members, scale back and do whatever, that's part of the process.
There you have it. Hopefully you got some value from that snippet. Now keep in mind that was a snippet from the event. The event was an entire day from about 9 to 6 p.m. But that was just one thing that I wanted to show you, really, because we talked about a lot of strategies and a lot of tactics and a lot of, to be honest, insider secrets, things that we're doing, things that our students are doing that are working really well right now. But I wanted to make sure that you had the right perspective before you could go and see any of that. Now look, at this point, this is my call to action to you. If you want to work with me, if you want to work closely, and you want my help to get you to 5,000-10,000 per month or beyond with a social media marketing business, then just see the description of the video. You'll see the information on how you can work with me, and I'll talk to you soon.